Hey, welcome in, everybody. Hey, Gina and Christopher. What's up, Sally, Luis, Adrian, Patricia? What's going on, guys? If you can hear me and see me okay, please just let me know in the chat box so I know my audio visual is okay. I'm going to be running solo today. Elon is on the last leg of a month-long road trip, so he's literally driving home right now with his family. Beautiful. All right, guys. So I would love to just get started because there's a lot of changes happening in the community right now in the best way possible. Very, very exciting, all the growth and a lot of new faces. And so just if you guys can give me kind of a sense of how it is that you found us. A lot of you guys are probably in MMI. Some of you guys are not in programs. Some of you guys are in programs. Some of you guys are just in the group. Like where are you right now, at least on your growth journey as far as it concerns Satori Prime? You may have been on your growth journey for much, much longer than before you found this community. But, is it 1 to 5 years? Are you just getting started? Just give me some kind of sense of who's in the room. And we still have people coming in. So that way, before I get started, we'll get all that kind of stuff. All right. So Gina found us on Cryon. Very cool. Jeanette, you found us on Facebook. And are you currently also in attendance of any of our programs? That gives me a little idea of just what you're doing inside the community right now. Cool. Facebook and followed your podcast for 2 months. Very, very cool. Fantastic. And you can probably see that poll if you want to answer it as well. Give me an idea of what's in the room. Cool. Gina just finished MMI. Adrian found us through Launch U last winter. Yes, you did. Awesome. Patricia, no programs yet. Okay. Oh, okay. All right, Ingrid. Oh, hey, Ingrid. Yes, we've definitely had a misunderstanding. We'll get you cleared up. Just again, I sent you an email over the weekend trying to clarify what happened. So if you can respond to that, we'll get you sorted in the best way we can. So welcome in, guys. It's good to have you all with us, and welcome to all the new students. Welcome to potential students. Welcome to old students. You're not old, just have been here a while. We've been doing this for a minute, and if you've been in our community, there's, again, like I said, a lot of really very positive changes happening right now in the community as far as how we're onboarding people, how we're bringing people in, what the functionality of these Tuesday calls are going to be. I could tell you that slowly these Tuesday calls are going to transition more into being a support call for students. So more or less the format will be somewhat similar. We'll still do kind of overview training, give you guys an idea of what it's like when you're doing mindset work, what it's like to do more of the energetic awareness work, what are the benefits, how do you approach that kind of stuff. And because it's shifting on how people are getting onboarded even into the Facebook group and into the community, I would like for this to be just like a conversation that you can come back to whenever you feel like it on any Tuesday with Elon and myself. And we can give you just that high level look from somebody who's been doing this particular type of work. And it's truly a constant evolution, even in our own lives and how we bring it through. But it's just something that, whether you are just an MMI or you're in our highest end programs, you can come here and tap into the energy of the group, the energy of this work, get resources as they come out, speak to our team, whatever it is. Essentially in the background, all we ever really talk about as a team is how do we continue to support the growth of this community. Ultimately, what I would like to see as a vision is people stepping into all sorts of roles in this community as it grows, and kind of taking the reins, so to speak, because Elon and I find we're kind of like guides and leaders in the community. But in my world of worlds vision, I see a community that is self-sustained. I see a community of people just stepping forward and taking action, because the game that we're playing here is not, it's not a game about, yeah, it is a game about me and you, right? It's a game about our personal liberation. It's about our personal freedom. It's about our personal transformation. It's about all those things. And there's a much bigger picture at play that I see, which is really the potentiality here for humanity. As we do our inner work, and I'll explain why I believe this to be true, the world that I think a lot of us want to see this world evolve into and transform into, in my opinion, is not going to happen because they change some law, or there's some, magical person that's appointed as president or whatever it might be. Although certainly that can play a role, because laws don't change the hearts and the minds of the people. In order for this world to show up as a more compassionate place to live, we within ourselves have to go in and be with the parts that we are judging and are discompassionate with. And as we do our inner work, we liberate ourselves from this old stigma, this old conditioning, and we become more inwardly compassionate, which is a guarantee, by the way, of this work, amongst many others that I can throw out there as guarantees. You'll find that as you become inwardly compassionate towards yourself, you become externally, naturally more compassionate. And so a lot of the models that people try to use to better their lives is, I don't like my circumstances, I don't like what's happening, so let me change those circumstances. Let me work really, really hard and get those circumstances to change. And in my experience, that just does not work for people, because the inward experience is not really touched by the outer world. It might be stimulated, it might be affected, it might be impacted, but all you guys know, and you can correct me if you don't feel this way, that's perfectly fine, that you may work real hard and change your circumstances, alter them a little bit, but the little child, the little boys and little girls, these parts that live inside of us, they may feel like something resolved for a moment, they may feel safe for a moment, but ultimately those parts get stimulated again at some point in our lives, and that fear, that terror, that sadness, that confusion, that frustration returns. And the reality is, all those things are not new. They're known to us deeply. We've known them since we were little children. And I'm saying this from having worked with thousands of people all over the world, tens of thousands potentially, and just seeing like that seems to be a universal experience. And so fixing our circumstances while appearing generally good on the surface does little to nothing for cultivating what I think is mostly important for us, is safety, is well-being, is to authentically connect to other people in this world. And as far as I'm concerned, you cannot acquire those things, right? Like acquiring those things, it might be a band-aid for a period of time. That feels okay. But money no more makes people feel safe than having no money. It just changes the perspective a little bit. But I've worked with plenty of very wealthy people, and I could tell you, the fear is real this way or that way. And if the fear is not learned through exercises and self-realization, then it's really just changing form and never quite gets resolved. And so this work is about not avoiding. It's not about pretending like things aren't going on. It's not about trying to make a life that you never have to worry about that again, because it's gonna find its way through the surface. Just so like even if you put a tree under cement, it seems like it's never going to grow, but it peeks its way anyway, right? It's this like patient part. And so this work is really about those underneath parts. It really is about cultivating not just a mindset, but also real practices that really impact the way that our nervous system operates, the way that our attachment systems operate, the way that we feel internally about ourselves when we're not at our best, or when we find ourselves in anger or grief or sadness or anything like that. It's not about overcoming those things, okay? Which is so much of what the personal development space has been. It's like this super masculine approach. I'm as guilty of that as anyone, even teaching that kind of stuff, is like that super masculine approach to like just get shit done, be in crazy amount of action, and like make the life that you want happen. And I'm not saying there's not an element where that's beneficial, okay? But at the end of the day, that's still running away and avoiding an experience that's happening within the subframe of this bodysuit. Okay, so a lot of you guys who are doing MMI or who have done more of the like level 1 mindset geared work, you know that what you're establishing as a practice is an objective witness of your mind. Okay, we call this the subtle witness. So it's a way to listen to the thoughts and to unmerge from your thoughts, unmerge from the mind. And this is truly the starting blocks for creating freedom in your life, a type of freedom that I assure you most people on this planet currently do not have. If that's all you got from this work, genuinely, you are ahead of most people. Okay. And so I put that poll up and, I put, what area of life do you want to break through in? Relationships, money, finances, emotional well-being, self-expression, self-love, or confidence. So far, 72% of you guys have said you want all of the above. Okay. So what that tells me is that we're all here for a holistic experience. And I want to offer, I'm going to pitch that here's what we're all looking for. It may not be exactly, but I want to generalize. Okay. Here's the things that I've seen that people, generally speaking, don't name because they think it's a specific result that they want in life. And I believe through my own, my own experiences, my own musings, my own contemplations, that this is ultimately what a human really wants. Yes, there's all the surface stuff, the stuff we can see out here. Yeah, I want I want to make sure my family's taken care of. I want the health. I want a great relationship. I want the money, all that kind of stuff. Fair. But underneath that, what we're really speaking to is that there's a specific kind of quality in which we want to experience our lives from. Okay. We talk about this a lot in our later programs, but right now, most of us are living from a quality of survival. Like, how many of you guys, just by a show of yes or I in the chat box, say like you are a professional survivor, like you know how to survive really, really, really well, like that's your forte. How many of you guys know that you are a professional survivor? Yep, 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 yep. Right. So, so I just want to offer that that's a particular way that a human being can learn. We can learn through suffering. We can learn through pain. We can learn through survival, right? Useful tools, by the way, and certainly not the only tools that we can have. Okay. And so I really want to offer that there is a different way. And this is going to sound strange to some of you guys, but when you get into the more energetic work that we do at the, let's call it more advanced levels, level 2, level 3 of our Awareness Effect Academy, and that's where Elon and I PS train personally. The only other place that you can get live training from us before you get there is this weekend. We have the Intuitive Mind live event on Saturday and Sunday, and that's 12 hours of this type of training that I'm going to describe right now with you guys. So if you're not already enrolled for that live event, you are available this weekend. I highly recommend popping in there. I can throw this up for you guys if you want. Let me see. Do I even have that here? I don't. Okay. So you can go to intuitivemind.live. Here, I'll just put this in there. Actually, Sarah, you're here. Can you just put the link in there for them? For Intuitive Mind, and I'm happy to still offer them the 50%. So just give them the half 50 coupon code so they know. So you can still save half off on the ticket. It's $444 normally. It's $222 to get in there this weekend. See if Sarah puts it in there. If not, I will. And if you buy a ticket, this is the first event that we're not just offering you a personal ticket. We are allowing you to bring a friend. Can you just put the HTTPS in front of it so they have the, I think it's clickable then, and also the coupon code as well. So yeah, you can bring a family member, a friend, or a colleague. So you can basically buy one ticket and give one ticket. So we basically doubled the value of the ticket. So if there's anybody in your life, a spouse, a partner, this or that, you want them understanding what work you're part of. Because certainly when we have people in our lives doing this work with us, it makes it a little bit easier. Thank you, Sarah. To to just have someone to communicate with about these experiences that you're having. If not, that's totally fine. And I would really assert not to push people into this work. Like, people need to come to their own self-realization and growth experiences kind of in their own time. Some people are like really dedicated to this, and other people are like, I don't know why you're doing all this crazy stuff. And having someone by your side that gets what you're doing is amazing. And if you don't have that, that's why the community is here to support you. And a lot of you guys are just starting this path with us. You don't actually realize down the road the kind of support systems that we've set up for you, the kind of things that help you repair trauma, like nervous system trauma, like these autonomic experiences. Like, again, how many of you guys know that you get into situations in your life, and you can agree with this and just say yes in the chat box, you get into a situation, you already have awareness that you don't want to act in a particular way, but there you are doing the very thing that you promised yourself you wouldn't. Whether that's a personal agreement you had with yourself or a personal agreement you have with a spouse or a friend, hey, I won't do that anymore. And then you find yourself, acting out of anger or falling into kind of a depression or sadness. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, don't I have awareness over this thing? Like, why is that still happening? Right? So just look in the chat box as people sound off, and I'll put the link in there again. Some of you guys say you can't find it. For event. This is the you know what? I will just stick this right on top. I'm still getting used to this system that we're using here. Thanks, Sarah, for the help. I'm going to try to throw this right on top if I can. Let me see. There you go. Should be right on top now. Easy to find. So that's what I'm talking about, right? Because what we're looking at there is the autonomic response of the system. And while mindset is great, it'll make you highly proactive in your life, incredibly capable of seeing when you're living your life out of alignment, the ability to take responsibility for those things, actually respond to when something happens in your life, not just be like, oh my God, this is happening, this is the worst thing ever. Have integrity with your word, build relationships that truly matter, complete things in your life, like relationships. Sometimes people get angry and then they don't complete stuff for 10 years and they wonder why the relationship is not working. Like, that kind of stuff really, 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 really makes a difference in the qualitative nature of our lives, will vastly improve your performance, will grow and increase your confidence in significant ways. Having said that, those autonomic responses have nothing to do with this organ up here. Okay. That is a much more holistic approach. That's the entire nervous system. And I don't care if you have plenty of awareness, but guess what? If a baseball is flying at your head, or if you're in a car accident, your body's going to respond automatically. And you want it to. Okay. You want it to. Just like when you're falling down the stairs and you magically catch yourself, there was no thought involved. The body just does it. And so we want to look at that, because that response in the body, or that response to get angry, or that response to get sad, these autonomic responses that most people are trying to avoid or numb out with some drugs or whatever it might be, right, through some form of addiction, all those things are signals, and all they're ever trying to do is to keep you safe. Okay? So this identity trap, or these personality traits that people find unfavorable or negative, at their core, their desire and intention from that response, that biological autonomic response from our nervous system, attachment system, so on and so forth, all of that is to defend sensitive parts inside and to try to attempt to create safety for the system. And so I want you to think what it would be like. Parents can obviously relate to this, but if you had yourself, you were this adult, and you have the 5-year-old version of yourself, and your only job all the time is to keep this 5-year-old safe from the dangers of this world, safe from experiencing pain, right? And so you're defending all the time, and you're constantly trying to mitigate different experiences so that the child doesn't experience pain or suffering in this world. And that's what most parents do. And then, of course, what ends up happening is the child turns to you and is upset at you for doing that. Right? And that's kind of the game we're playing inside. It's like there's these young parts trying to do their best, and then we're judging them. And it's because we approach things this way that nothing ever changes in our lives. Okay? Because it's like what you resist persists. You become the very roadblocks that you're trying to get rid of. So what I'm pointing at here is that there is no liberation and no freedom for any of us until we intimately go within through certain awareness practices that are very beneficial. And that's what we teach at Intuitive Mind, is not just how to go in, because you've all tried to look at it. You've all tried to go into trauma. You're like, you're really sad and you sit with this sadness and you get more sad. That doesn't work. Okay. And I'm going to explain why that doesn't work. Or you go to a therapist and you talk about it and then it doesn't feel really good. And you're like, well, we've talked about this like 15 times already. I understand why it's happening. I understand that it's this thing and I made this decision and blah, 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 but I still feel that way inside. Why is that not going away? Again, because that type of therapy is, and I'm not denouncing therapy, there's a lot of benefits to it, but what I really want to point to is that there's another way. Okay. We can do work through well-being, believe it or not. Actually, we could do more work through well-being. We can do more work without analyzing ourselves at all. Like this stuff that's lies within you that seems so problematic, it doesn't like to be analyzed. It doesn't like to be assessed. It's no more than you would like to be analyzed or you would like to be assessed. Okay? It is looking, these parts of you are looking for a very particular type of presence and attunement from within. And again, this replicates exactly what it is that you want in your life, what you wanted from mom and dad or your caregivers, what you want from your spouse, what you want from your children, right? You want presence, be here with me. And there's a certain attunement because sometimes they're with you, but it's like it feels sharp or painful or uncomfortable. That's misattuned presence. Now, it's not their fault that they're doing that. It's not your fault that you're doing what you're doing. It's just that there is literally a lack of experiential education on this in society at all. It's like it doesn't even exist. This is the stuff I've had to travel far and wide and find teachers, who do unbelievable work in this field to discover, well, how do we get those needs met in the system? How do we actually get the system to calm, the fuck down so we can come from a stable, resourced, and aligned place in our life? And so in my view, that's what we're all looking for. We want to feel safe. That's number one, within our body and in this world. Say yes if you agree. Okay. We want to feel aligned to our purpose, aligned with our emotional well-being, right? And we want to feel well in our body. We want to feel sound in our mind. We don't want like crazy thoughts all day long that are very distracting. Okay. We want to experience well-being, right? Like we actually want to feel well. Okay. And that's actually a qualitative experience, PS. It's not a thought. Okay. And we want to feel resourced. I would say there's like number 4. Okay. So yes, if you agree with those things. And a lot of people don't think about it this way because they're like, they never considered that maybe the body doesn't actually feel safe. And maybe as I say that, you can feel into your body and what it's felt like to be a human on this planet. And I'm not just talking about our generation. I'm talking thousands of years back. There's like a lack of a sense of safety. How many of you guys can feel into that too? Okay. So usually when people do this work, I'm not joking, it's the first time they feel safe in some forum. It's the first time they experience well-being because I'm telling you, well-being is an actual quality you can feel in your body. It feels like warmth. We call it the well-being hot tub. So it's a quality. So again, safety is a quality, well-being is a quality, being in alignment is a quality, and feeling resourced is a quality. If you're wondering about this last one about being resourced is like, again, if you're a parent or you're a spouse of some kind, you're in a relationship, or you're even at work and you're tired or you haven't eaten, you're undernourished, under-resourced. How do you normally act when you're undernourished and under-resourced? Are you like, everything's great? Or are you like barking orders at people and suddenly you're like, why was I such an asshole, right? A very good sign of being under-resourced. Like I know my wife and I, first year and a half of marriage, never argued about a damn thing. We had a kid for 6 months. We hadn't slept a lot in 3 to 4 days. Suddenly we're saying things to each other like two drunken buffoons, right? Heavily under-resourced systems. So in the physical sense, it's food and sleep and stuff like that, okay? But at the level of energy, being resourced literally means doing energetic hygiene. It's like actually like cleaning the system from within. And for a lot of people, they don't understand that when you do certain meditation practices or certain presence practices with another human being present, is that's what you're doing. You're actually energetically cleaning the system. And what that means is that your body is metabolizing stuck energy in the system. Okay. So from the perspective of therapy or science, what they would call trauma, from the perspective of energy and awareness, we just call that stuck energy in the traction or discomfort. It's like you can feel like, again, how many of you guys can know when you're like sad, you have this kind of like squeezing in the throat? I'm sorry, like squeezing in the heart, or suddenly feels like your throat is tightening up, or your solar plexus feels really tight. And maybe you've never taken the time to consider this, but this is the energetic language of our body. And every mammal on planet Earth speaks in energy to one another. Every mammal does this. It's just energetic signaling back and forth. Okay. And so what we're teaching in this work at Intuitive Mind and at level 2 and 3 is this other language that exists between us and everything around us, right? With the trees, with our environment, with absolutely everything around us is signaling us energetically. This is the reason birds can migrate in perfect unison. This is the reason whales get back to, where they spawned, and salmon and like all this stuff, right? Everything on this planet uses this type of signaling. And so when we learn to listen to this signaling within us, it unveils an entire world. And this world is extremely subtle. It's the world of subtlety. And just like all things in this world, everything that's large spawns from something very, very small. Right? Like an oak tree, still this teeny tiny seed. I think an oak tree is like one of the smallest seeds of any tree there is. It's teeny tiny, grows into this giant oak. Like everything is spawned from something small. So all our autonomic systems, all our responses, all our identity and personality, everything that defends, everything that tries to create safety spawns from something very, very small in the body. It could be a very small contraction, a very small place of discomfort in the body. But we don't, because we're not trained to notice this energetic signaling in our system, we notice it when it becomes a thought, and we notice when we put it into action. That's already too late. It's already happened. I'm not saying it's too late, like, you're shit out of luck. I'm just saying that ship has sailed. You are now fully merged with your mind. You are running program. And then usually when we run a program, it seems like it's everyone else's fault. Couldn't possibly have anything to do with us. But that's the trickiness of the system. Is we are the ones recreating and looping in traumatic experiences within our own realm. And the system tricks us to think that it must be something out there that's doing it to me. It must be this person. It must be this circumstance. It couldn't possibly be something I'm generating. And what I'm offering is that if you're missing the signaling, then you're living in a constant state of reactivity. And when you start paying attention to this signaling, and it takes some time, like anything else, it's a practice. You start living, you can notice the reactivity and then not react and actually be responsive. And so when that changes, this is what we focus on a lot, is we say, hey, look, you can put things into action in your life. Some people can't take any action at all. That's their own stuff, right? Some people can easily take action, but they constantly find that action leads to negative results or self-sabotage. And they're like, why is this happening? I'm trying so hard. How many of you guys are my very hard workers out there? Say yes in the chat box. And then you still find yourself in similar loops, similar cycles. Very painful, right? Because you're like, I'm really trying here. Like, why are things not changing? Again, there's an undertone that you're creating action from a certain quality of energy within you. And that energy is what's creating the result. It's like a frequency. And so if you create from example, like you feel scarcity or fear or terror when you're taking action, and then the best efforts of trying to resolve it, you take action from there going, look, I got to do something to resolve it. But what motivated the action is the energy and the quality of scarcity, of anger, sadness, whatever it is. There's a law in the universe that this energy begets energy. the only thing that taking action from that energy can do is create more of that energy. So other circumstances that align to that energy flood into your life. We got to get that basically this thing that we see that we call reality is essentially an organic hologram or an organic mirror, okay? And that mirror changes. This is quantum physics I'm talking here, right? So this is not just spiritual science, it's a science. That mirror changes based on the observer, right? That's been proven. Waves and particles, and if you don't know about this stuff, go look at it, right? So it's like, so what is creating the observer that is looking into the mirror, that's seeing that reality, is the frequency that you're holding inside of your body. And so the stuck energy that I'm talking about here, quote unquote trauma, could be big trauma, small trauma, are these places in the body where it gets tight or uncomfortable. And so what we have been trained to do, if you want to think of it that way, or conditioned to do, is to avoid the discomfort. That doesn't feel good. Why would I go in there? And that discomfort started when you were very small, right? Like you were a young 3, 4, 5-year-old, maybe younger. You had some event happen to you, a charge hit your system. It felt terrible. You had to do something. Your system had to do something to survive that moment. And then the system said, we are never going to experience that again. And you spend your entire life trying to build a cocoon to protect yourself from ever feeling that again. And usually it's like heartbreak or a significant amount of pain or loss, right, of some kind. And then anything that sniffs of that later on in life, or that might stimulate that in any way, we completely avoid. We won't take that risk. We won't go into that relationship. We won't take that job. The fear is too great to experience that heartbreak or whatever it might be again. And it's for this reason, this avoidance and this inability to really look at this discomfort in the body, that we remain in this prison. Okay. How many of you guys are tracking what I'm saying? I just want to make sure I haven't lost everybody. Sally, I see your question. I'm going to mark it, and if we have time, I'll come back to it, okay? So what we want to do in this case is we want to be able to develop, obviously, our skill set, our ability to be with these inner parts. And there's a very specific way that we do that, right? Because if you're like, my heart hurts, let me look at it, and my heart hurts. And it's like, oh, my heart hurts. And then you get all the memories flooding of why your heart hurts. You know, like it reminds you of some very painful experience from your childhood, or it could even be recent, something recent, right? It sucks to do that, by the way. So there's two things that we get to do, both individually and as a community, to repair this. And the second part, I mean, they both excite me, but the second part really excites me because this, for as far as I'm concerned, I have been trying to do developmental and healing work for 20 years. I tried to do a lot of that on my own for about 15. Made some headway, but I could tell you vast limitations in doing this type of work by yourself. And there's something beautiful when you begin to recognize that in order for this body to heal over here, I actually need another body over there. I need to be held in presence by another person. Okay. Again, think to your childhood, think how you wanted mom and dad to show up for you. You wanted their presence and you wanted a certain level of attunement for mom and dad. If those two elements were not there, even if there was a body there, but no attunement, still traumatizing. If they weren't there at all, very traumatizing, right? But like, again, you need a body, a willing presence, and it has to be some kind of attunement there. And so just the same way that you were looking for, quote, that kind of data stream from mom and dad, or like that need to be met from mom and dad, and they're not bad and wrong, by the way, that they couldn't do that. They were not given any of this training either. And I promise you, whatever was done to your parents was worse than what they did to you. Okay. So we got to have some admiration for the type of experience that mom and dad probably had at home. And that, of course, condition them and train them how to be with you when you were a child, and so on and so forth. Right. And then you have children and you kind of unconsciously pass down these, let's call them unhealthy traits, or unhealthy, or this type of conditioning down to your children. Like, It's kind of unavoidable unless you have this type of awareness around presence. And so we can do two things, right? If for those of you guys that have our meditations, that's why we release those meditations, because you can train yourself through those meditations how to have what we call a self-to-self practice that allows for your system not just to, you basically want to come out of the conditioned mind. Okay, so you want to unhook from here, because anything you do from here just loops the limbic system. You just go back into the trauma, you experience it again, very painful. And instead of getting out of the trauma, it's like you just did another rep and you created more trauma in your system. Again, this is why therapy, you'll have friends that are in therapy for like 15 years and they're still dealing with the same shit. They have some level of understanding now, philosophically, they understand what's going on, but the body hasn't changed, right? So they're still in this like traumatic loop. And at least that's my explanation, right? If that doesn't fit your model, I totally understand. Okay. And I've talked to therapists about this, who felt like not successful in their practices, couldn't really help their patients the way they wanted to. I pointed at this, and it's like a huge revelation for them when I point at this for them. Okay. And again, I understand there's a variety of therapies out there. In fact, we weave in and out into our work some therapies that we believe are very helpful, and we add on the awareness and energetic piece with them, because in my personal experiences, that therapy alone is not enough to fully repair what's happening in the nervous system. And so it needs kind of the kick. The puzzle needs to be completed through energy and awareness practices. Again, we are energy awareness beings. Okay. That's it. So to leave that off the table seems kind of ridiculous. Language cannot describe the human experience. It is a descriptor of an experience, but we all know, like, your direct experience of something is very different than talking about it. We do our best to have language that describes an experience, but like, if you really had to describe what it was like to fall in love for the first time, hard to do, right? The words pale in comparison to the actual experience. With awareness and energy, the focus is on direct experience and directly experiencing from an altered state of consciousness or a higher state of consciousness. I hesitate to use higher because it makes it sound like it's better. It's just different. Okay. And there's many, many, many different portals and portways to get to different states of higher consciousness and different qualities of those consciousnesses. Okay. So, but the first one we want to be able to do is to come out of the conditioning of the mind, right? So if conditioning is here behind the eyes, which is where most people are located in their awareness all the time, just learning how to unhook and come out is life-changing, okay? Because all the problems you have, all the issues that you think you have, all the situations in your life are all being caused by the very machine that you think is going to fix them all. And Veronique was saying, energetic practices were most definitely the big missing piece for me in healing journey. Going through Satori Prime programs has been an amazing and total life changer. Yeah, so Veronique's been with us for quite some time. And Ritu has been with us for quite some time. I saw her here. So if you guys want to, chime in on what I'm saying, please do. And I'm telling you, it takes time to work through decades of painful conditioning. Okay. And we're not talking about just decades in your life. We're talking generational conditioning. Many generations, thousands of years of stuff, right? We're like, this generation's tasked with, are we going to be the generation that says no more to that trauma? And we're actually going to learn how to heal and repair that trauma so that we don't have to keep passing this stuff down to the next generation and the next generation and hope that they do better with the very same conditioning, right? I feel very privileged and humbled to be in a situation in this lifetime where we've developed this world far enough that many of us, certainly not all of us, but many of us get to be in a position to introspect, philosophically look at ourselves, be in these practices, because we're not constantly worried about the next meal on the table, or just, a king coming to take your land or whatever it may have been in the past. But that's why we're privileged. And it's like, if we have that privilege, what are we going to do with our time? Are we going to sit around and waste it? Or are we going to be the type of people that learn how to move through and beyond this old trauma so that the pain of this world doesn't have to be recycled and recreated with every generation. Okay. And so once we unhook from our awareness and we become aware of energy inside the body, we can start tracking our own system. Some people, by the way, when they start this, they say they feel nothing. What usually they fail to recognize is that that feeling of nothingness, that numbness that they feel, that is the sensation. That actually is the sensation. That's how defended that body is. It's defended itself to the point where it's in full contraction, so energy is not moving anymore and they can't feel it. You can only really feel stuff when energy is moving or static, right? Like you almost like don't know you have a hand until you put awareness on it, or until you like move something across your hand, right? Energy is moving. Now you can feel it. You become aware of it. So either you choose to put awareness on the hand and actually start feeling the sensation inside of it. And you should try that, by the way. Why don't you go ahead and do that with me? Like put up one hand and put awareness on your hand. Like intend to just put awareness there. You don't have to look at your hand. Notice too, it has nothing to do with your eyes. And you will quickly start noticing that you actually start feeling more sensation in your hand. Okay. How many of you guys just by just a few seconds of doing that, notice that as you put awareness on your hand, there's more sensation. It might feel like hot or cooling or vibration. Doesn't really matter what you feel, but you start feeling more in your hand. Say yes in the chat box if you can feel that. Yeah, cool. Yeah, there you go. Awesome, guys. And so, and prove to yourself that it's not like I'm not doing anything. This is not some godforsaken magic trick. Like move your awareness now to your left foot. Like place all your awareness. It's almost as if the mind is in the foot. And notice if you start feeling more sensation in your foot. And then say yes in the chat box if you can feel more sensation in your foot. How many of you guys are getting more sensation in your foot now? Yeah. So look, we're doing a very, very interesting, very small, and very interesting experiment here of observation, right? We are noticing that we are able to move our awareness at a place of our choosing. And then we're noticing that there's a biological impact on our perception and within our body. Yes? So this is the start of a huge recognition of subtle energy and also of the nature of awareness itself. Because up until maybe this moment for many of you, you have thought that where you live and where you experience the world from is somewhere between your two eyes. But in this short little moment, we just proved you don't have to look at the hand. You can move your awareness separate from the eyes completely. You notice that you can choose where to put your awareness through the simple act of intention. I don't even know how to explain intention, but somehow every human knows exactly what it is and exactly how to use it. Even if I tried to explain to you how to use intention, I couldn't do it, but you just know. And then we're noticing that we can actually perceive a actual change in physical space with our hand. And so what's kind of happening here, not kind of, this is what's happening. We're moving awareness, and you guys all know the wording of like where attention goes, energy flows. It's exactly what's happening. You're choosing where to put your awareness, your attention. What's happening? Energy flowing there. This makes you a fucking magician, by the way. Because look, you're moving energy with your awareness. And then simultaneously, awareness becomes like a magnet for blood flow. And you're getting more blood flow through the hand. That's why we start getting the pulsing and the heat and all this kind of stuff. If you've ever wondered how a monk heals themselves faster, welcome. They focus their awareness on that area, more blood flow, more nutrition. Obviously, the body's going to heal faster. Okay, it's very focused awareness. Now, over time, I'm at a place in my own practice where I can be open-eyed and move my awareness kind of to the place of my choosing. That has taken me many years to be able to do that. You could call it like an open eye meditation if you want to think of it that way, but that has come with a lot of repetition. So when we move awareness away from the conditioned mind, the other thing that we're proving here is that our conditioning is here. And so when we leave our awareness here, what we're continuously doing is we're accessing our conditioning. We're accessing that quality of our mind. And so from that place, the only thing we can do, it's like awareness is like choosing what software you're going to run on your computer. And so if you're here, then the only software that can be run is the conditioning of the mind. And so everything will be created from that conditioning over and over and over and over again. And you're trying to get out of that conditioning from inside the conditioning. It's like trying to look at the back of your own head. You can't do it. You need to develop, we get to develop, we don't need to do anything. We get to develop an objective witness, or what Michael Singer calls the seat of awareness. Okay. And for a lot of people, that seems like that is way out in my future. It's going to take me forever to develop that. I'm telling you, you just did it right now. You just tasted it. And once you taste it, that's all that's required. We call this glimpse practicing. You just have to glimpse it. Now you know it's available. Now what we're going to work on is stabilizing that so that you're here all the time. Because here are your choices. You can live through conditioning in your 5 senses and you will continue to get the life that you have. It's not bad. It's not wrong. It's just, this is the life. This is the life that generates. Or you can learn how to come out of that and slowly bring your awareness so it actually sits in front of your 5 senses and objectively witnesses what's happening. And now I want to offer you, here's the biological effect of doing that. Here's the practical function of these meditations that we're offering, of these trainings that you guys are going through. And again, if you're an MMI, you're on your path to learning that stuff. You're not there yet, right? Or level 1. Like in level 1, we just re-recorded it a few months ago because we wanted to start weaving in these practices where before it was strictly mindset based. Now we're starting to train more of the energetic pieces over there. So you guys are more prepared for L2 and L3. And this is the difference of what we call doing growing up work, that's mindset work, and doing waking up work. This is awareness and energy, okay? When we merge these two together, it's very potent. We try to just do awareness and energy work with people, and what happens is they actually metabolize the trauma, but the mind begins to recreate the trauma because they're not aware of how this is generating the trauma. And so they kind of like pull into their past and they put in the present and they start recreating that into their future. And so we realize we got to teach both. So we always start with mindset as the foundation, because if you don't understand what the game this is playing, you're shit out of luck. You're going to recreate the trauma over and over again. Okay. Then we get into the more, again, it's not advanced work, just different work. And to us, it's so impactful and important. And it's what separates what we do here as an organization from pretty much every other organization out there, is that we are going in and we are teaching you those ancient wisdom practices that the men and women who sat in caves for 30, 40, 50 years, this is what they've learned. And those are, luckily, thankfully, I'm sure divinely, people that have been put into our lives to reveal these things to me and Elon so that we can bring these things in a practical way to you. And so if you come to Intuitive Mind, if you end up doing our level 2 and level 3 work, what we teach is the fundamentals of this kind of work to teach you how to actually metabolize the stuck energy in your body. And that's what happens when you develop and you can sit an empty witness and a subjective witness, and then you go towards the trauma and you watch from there. The system doesn't contract. It actually begins to release and open, and the body metabolizes this energy. Okay, this is what's called rest and digest, or a parasympathetic nervous system response from a scientific perspective. Okay. Yeah, and Sierra, if you did L1 at any time, you have access to the new recordings. By the way, we gave it to the entire community free of charge, so you can just pop in there and it should be in there. Okay. If you haven't done L1 yet, I highly recommend it. Obviously, right? I'm a little biased about my work, about our work. So that's what we want to develop. We want to develop this seat of awareness. We want to be able to notice subtle energy in the body, and we want to have a direct experience of what happens when I witness from here and I don't actually get involved. I don't actually try to fix. I don't try to cajole. I don't try to strong arm it. I don't try to stand against it. I don't try to avoid it. I just am with my direct experience. I don't need philosophy for this. I don't need to even understand why it's there. Completely irrelevant. And so it makes the work effortless because your only job, if there is such a thing, is to be in your awareness and watch. Imagine if I told you that you can resolve 95% of your problems in your life by simply doing nothing but watching. Like just watching a movie. Now the movie just happens to be you. And so just like when we watch a movie, we are the objective witness of what's happening to the character on the screen. Notice that in our lives, that's not what we're doing. We are merged with the character on the screen and we're like, oh my God, this is awful. So it's just like watching a movie. You are sitting back in your awareness and now you are watching the human do human things. And the awareness is literally filled with compassion and just watching the human do the human things. Kind of like when you watch a puppy or a small child break something, whatever, you're like, oh my God, it's like, it's a baby. Okay. Like you have this unconditional love and compassion that you can hold for something. And you're going to slowly develop that within yourself, this witness that just watches. And like I said, the biological impact is that your body goes into a down-regulated parasympathetic nervous response and can actually relieve itself of held energy. When you start doing this, if you want to know how to get a quiet mind, how many of you guys want a quiet mind? You want a focused mind. You want a mind that doesn't judge you all the time and doesn't do all the crazy shit that the mind does. How many of you guys want that? And so the way that you ascertain this is by cultivating these practices. Again, you can't buy safety. You can't buy well-being. You can't buy authentic connection. You can't buy a resource, at least not in the way I'm talking about it. You can cultivate it within yourself. And so you want to understand that what's really happening is not that you have a crazy reactive wild mind. Your mind, again, has just been given this unbelievable task of trying to create safety and defend your system at all costs. And it is not aware of what's happening down here. But the reason it's reactive is because you have this discomfort or contraction in the system, and the mind is subconsciously aware of that, and it feels a discomfort. And in order to protect you from not having to feel whatever pain or discomfort is arising, it runs program autonomically. Doesn't matter how much awareness, mental aptitude you gain, that will continue to happen until you go inside and look. Liberation and freedom is not about avoiding the process. It's not about figuring it out. It's not about going around it. It literally is. The only way out is through. You got to go through it. And the way the energy comes in is the way the energy goes out. Equal and opposite force. This is physics. So when we watch from conditioning, we re-enable that trauma. When we watch from the objective witness, or we call awake aware mind, it resolves itself. This is built into our systems. Just like I can't teach you how intention works or all that, you just know how it works. I guarantee you do that. And that's the biological, that's how our system works for resolving trauma in the system and for metabolizing energy. And the more that you do this, the easier life gets. The more that you do this, the more stability you get. The more that you do this, the more well-being you experience. The more that you do this, the more authentic connections you can have because you feel safe. The more that you do this, the more resource you have within. And the more that you do this, the higher quality, the energy you act from in your life. You stop acting from scarcity and fear, and you start acting from well-being, stability, and resource. You tell me what the organic hologram, this mirror, turns into when you live from a place of safety or well-being or resource, and it has to mimic your inner experience. So now the things that show up in your life are stable. They induce more well-being. They give you more connection. And you start to develop this inner confidence that you can be with anything as it arises in your life, which is what I believe is true confidence. Confidence is the ability to be with life as it unfolds, fully compassionate with yourself and how the human decides to respond to that situation. And you'll start seeing that things that have never moved in your life before, trauma you never thought would go away, relationships that you thought were never going to change, are all completely predicated on the energy you're carrying in your body. You guys all know when you react a certain way, your spouse or your children act a certain way. You're stressed out, they're stressed out. Then you tell them, stop being stressed out. Now you're all stressed out. What happens when you show up and you're stable and calm and well-being? Everybody calms down because we are all connected with each other. And then as you do this work, that becomes widely evident how reliant we are on each other and how impactful our energy can be on a room of people or a globe of people. right? Like what we see on the world is a symptom of people carrying around trauma. What happened if everybody in the world did this kind of work and suddenly was self-compassionate all the time? Would the world be different? I say yes. I say yes. So that's the crux of this work. Okay. Again, if you want like a huge download of this stuff, like a big old gulp taste of it, that's what our intuitive mind experience is for. It's on Saturday and Sunday. It's about 6 hours each day. Unbelievable event. This is the biggest event we've run so far. So like the energy should be out of control. This is like twice the size that we've ever had before in this event. Intuitivemind.live. We're going to open up the 50% discount for you guys who are on this webinar. It's half 50. So it's 222 instead of 444. And you have a buy one, give one ticket. So you can actually give a ticket to a colleague, a friend, a family member who you think would be impacted by this work, or at the very least is interested in this work. Please do not tell somebody that you invited into something else and then they come here and they're like sideswiped by this. Like, be honest with people. Make sure that they know what they're coming to, why it's relevant to them. You know, obviously if they're like a personal development, self-realization person, like you're like, hey, there's this amazing program this weekend, come check it out. I promise you, this will be like nothing that 99.99% of you have ever experienced before. So weekends are profound, one of our favorite things to do. And so I highly recommend jumping in there. If you need any other support from our team, don't ever hesitate to just shoot an email to support@satoriprime.com if you want to have a conversation with somebody, and we can kind of walk you through like the whole map of what it is that we do here. There's a lot of stuff, and it's designed, hopefully you believe, very elegantly like we do. It's taken us 12 years to design these programs the way that they're built today. There's been a ton of intention in the order in which they're done, how they're done, when they're done. So wherever you are on this journey, if you feel like we are the right people to guide you to that next place, and I'm very confident that we can be, that's the experience. Emily's asking, when will the next one be? I'm assuming the live event, I believe, I don't know the exact dates. I think it's the 25th and 26th of September, or 26 and 27, whenever that Saturday, Sunday is over there. So there's another event coming up. Even, by the way, if you buy a ticket today, it immediately comes with, I think we upgraded now to 12 hours of training. So you can actually have recordings of a full event right away. Okay. And we're giving that to you because if you go through that training and then come to a live event, it's going to just amplify your entire experience. So we're literally giving you, I should have mentioned that earlier, 12 hours of training for the acquisition of the ticket. So if you still want that training now, but you want to come to the next event, I would still say buy that ticket, Emily. Let us know that you just want to attend the next one. We'll just tag it in our system and it'll automatically just update it once this event is over. But if you want to have that training and go through the recordings, you can have those immediately as well. So it's, again, we just keep looking at how can we add more value to it. So we just are basically unlocking an entire program for you guys. The moment you buy your ticket, you can go in and do the training if that's what you want to do. And we do recommend that as well. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you guys for being here. I'm super excited about everything I'm seeing in the community. Super excited about all the stuff that's being shared in the group. Please, if you're an MMI and in our programs, please go into the public group. Let us know what's going on. Like that feedback, besides being just unbelievable for many of the things we get to hear from you guys, gives us feedback on how the programs are impacting people's lives. You're sourcing and helping other people who are looking at this work. And if you're getting so much value from it, I can tell you this is the best thing till I'm blue in the face. Hearing it from other people is so much more impactful, right? Of course, I'm biased. So like, you have no idea the impact you can make on another life by sharing your story, by sharing a breakthrough, by sharing your struggles. Like, I know it's like so vulnerable to do that, but like your vulnerability is your strength. And if you really, really want to impact people in this world, you got to open your mouth. You got to share your story, right? Like, that's really what makes a difference. That's really what moves the needle. And this global transformation that hopefully you want to be part of, because that's what we're out to help move forward, is really about doing this inner work. This century is about turning inside and becoming energy aware and becoming consciously aware of the most subtle parts of our reality so that we can impact the big stuff. Okay. I love you guys. Thank you for being here, and hopefully we see you this weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.